Welcome! In this video we will look at text boxes and checkboxes on forms with the PowerBasic Windows Compiler. In our last video we added a list view to our form to display the results of a search. What we're going to do today is add a checkbox and a text box to the same form to allow us to limit what appears in the list view grid. So if we exit the application and go into our Forms Designer. Now I think we'll make the forms slightly bigger today to allow us more room to add extra controls in. So if you select all the objects you wish to move and then just drag them down the screen. There we go. Now at the moment you can search for either eye colour or blood group, and when you hit the search button it generates the data it's found that match the search criteria, places it into the list view and then generates the pie chart for you. What we're going to do is we're going to work on the assumption that you may not want to see all the data in the list view. After all, there may be a large number of rows returned. So what we're going to add first of all is a checkbox. Now a checkbox is one of the controls we can add, and if we open up the control and have a look at it, it has a caption and a name. If we give it the name of GHK limit search. Now if we do this, it will give us a nice little checkbox basically that the user can tick. Now what we're going to do on that tick box is if the user actually does tick it, then we want to give them a way of actually putting in a maximum number of rows that we're going to return on the grid. So we need two extra controls added. We need a label and we need a text box. Our label in this case is going to ask the user how many rows they wish to return. And we'll just name that label max rows, and we'll make it blue like all the other boxes. So we also want to add a text box, which is the next one along. Now the text box has a number of properties we can manipulate. If we open up the properties box, and we'll give it a name first of all, call it text max rows, and we'll give it a 0 value initially. Now if we look at the properties on the text box, we can have the text in it left, right or center. So we'll have it in the center of the object, so it will display there. Now we don't want the user keying in ordinary text. If we run that as it stands now and go back to our code, and if we run that now, when it comes up, the user can click on the box, but they can key in letters as well as numbers. And there is absolutely no limit to the number of letters they can actually put in. So we want to put some limits on what the user can actually do. The first and easiest one to actually do is to go back into our Forms Designer. We'll open up the properties of the text box and go to Styles. Now one of the tick boxes down here is number. That way it will not allow the user to key any character other than a number. So if we tick that and save it and run our code, if the user goes in and tries to type any character other than a number, this little pop-up will appear to stop them doing anything. They can only put in numbers. However, they can put a lot of numbers in. We want to limit the user to the number of digits they can put into this text box. So, how do we do that? So, to limit the number of characters a user can actually key into a text box, I'm going to create a macro which performs this, because this is something we'll be doing all the time. So, if we load up our macros include file from our libraries folder, now these macros are compiled conditionally depending on the compiler you're actually in. These two macros are only compiled when you're in the console compiler. Now we're going to create another conditional command here. This means that this section of code will only be compiled in if we're in the Windows compiler. Therefore the same macros include file can still be used in our console applications. Now we're going to create a new macro. The job it is to allow us to call that macro to limit the number of characters that can be keyed in to a text box. Now we want to pass a couple of bits of information to the macro. One to be the handle for the text box, and one to be the limit on which we want to set. Now you can set limits on text boxes by using the control command and posting a message to the Windows queue. We're giving it the handle of the window, cb.handle. We're putting in the handle of the text box, and we're using a constant, a Windows constant, called emSetLimitText. It takes two parameters, first one being the limit and the second one being a 0. Generally all the control post commands take two parameters following the constant you're telling it what to do. And when we use this macro inside our code, it's basically going to paste in this line of code at compile time into our code. So let's go back to our code and put this in. If we go to the event handle of the dialog, right up at the top here, this is where we want to put it in. Now, we know the handle to the text box is that, and what limit do we want to set on it? Well, if we're going to let the user key in, say, up to 999, let's put 3 for 3 digits. Now, if we run that code now, we haven't put in the call, we haven't included the macros library yet. So let's go back up to the top and include the macros library. There's the macros library. So if we run the code now, and we go into our number of rows, and we start keying numbers, it will only allow 3 characters now, which is ideal. Now, on our checkbox, ideally what you want to do is the text box and the label for the text box should in theory be invisible until the user actually clicks "Do you wish to limit the search?" So what we're going to do is we're going to do an event when the user actually clicks on that text box. So if we go back to our event handler, now there's our checkbox. Now, as in all the other commands, when a button gets clicked on, we will need to paste in this, which tells us that the button's been clicked on, in this case the checkbox. Now, at the time the checkbox is checked, you don't know if the box is being checked or unchecked, and therefore you'll need to check the state of it. So let's create a variable to hold the state. And then down here, we want to determine the state of the checkbox. Now, if we have a look at the help file, we'll find that there is a command to get the value of the checkbox, and it gets it back either as a 0, a 1 or a 2. Now we will enter in the 0 and the 1s, either it's been checked or unchecked. So if we put that in there, the handle of the window. Now we want the handle of the checkbox. Now you can either paste in this, which is the handle of the checkbox, or since you know we're actually dealing with this particular object at the moment, if you put this in, this will effectively return the handle of the control that's actually had the event to kick off. Now if we put that to long state, and then if long state equals 1, then it's checked. So what do we do when it's actually been checked? Well, we want to make these two fields visible. So if we're not quite sure what the fields are, if we have a quick look at the form, we'll see, double click on this one just to get the name. That's the name of one of them. And the second one one useful thing you can actually do is use the prefix command if you're doing multiple lines that you want to change. This way it makes the code a wee bit easier to read. So what this is going to do, it's going to normalize, in other words make visible, this control and this control when that's been checked. And when they've been unchecked, we wish to hide them. So let's try that code out. There we go. When you tick it, it appears, and when you don't tick it, it disappears. Now initially when the form loads, they're visible. So what we need to do when the form actually loads in the first place, we want to basically hide them both until the user actually checks one. So if we go back up to our event handler, right where the form is initialized, I'll just tidy our code up a little bit. And there we go. So when the form loads now, the two objects are invisible until you actually click on the tick box. So when the user ticks the tick box, we pass that value to the function that performs the search, and it will be used to limit that. Now, if at the moment we leave it as 0, it means that the grid box will not be populated. So if we're looking for, say, 100 characters, then this will give us 100. Therefore we have two values. If this is ticked, we have to pass the tick box and the value of this to the function. So what we want to do then is, if we look at the piece of code in the event handler when the box is ticked, and we'll pull the value back on the search. Now this is the bit that does running of the search. Let's tidy it a little bit. Now we want to get back two additional bits of information. I want to get the name of the checkbox. Back here, and our checkbox is called this. And we want to get back to the value that's in the text box. And again we'll want the value of the text box, which is this one. And we'll create a new variable called maxRows to hold that information. So having got these two values, we'll want to pass them to the search function. So we're going to add yet more parameters. We'll pass both the state and the maxRows. So if we go to our search function, we'll add in the extra parameters. Now we're bringing back maxRows as a string, so we'll convert that to a number in a moment. So, in our code where we pull the information back, we are using the increment of the long count to count how many records we've actually got, and then we're inserting it into the grid. So what we want to do is we want to test on this so that if that is 1, so how do we restrict the records then? Well, we know long count equals the number of records we've actually reached so far, and maxRows is the total number. So let's create a local called long max rows, and as soon as that loads in, we'll just load that into it. Using the val command to bring back the integer value of the maxRows. So that will contain the maximum number of rows. Now, what we can do, there's a nice easy way of actually doing this. We'll do a test before we actually put things into the grid. So if the state is 1, then we're restricting the number of rows. So if the long count is greater than the maximum rows that we're allowed to show, we're going to use the iterate command. So if the number of rows we've counted is actually greater than the maximum number of rows we're allowed to show, then we will iterate, in other words jump to the for, which means we will go to the next line. So basically we do not execute this piece of code at all. Basically we skip past it and we go on to the next long R, because we still want to count how many records we've got for our pie chart. So if we try running this now, and we missed something. Get state. Get check. Should be get check, not state. And we need to put a then in. And now we're running. So if we're going for blue eyes again, and we wish to limit the list, and we'll say we want it to contain only 5, do the search, and it contains only 5. If we up it to 10, do the search, we'll still get 10. It's still telling us the total number of records found, but it's only displaying the number we asked it to. So if we're looking for only 3 records, so the only remaining problem we have with this application is that even though we're restricting the number of data rows we wish back to 5, when we search, it's just basically adding to the list that's there. That's because the list view is maintaining the list. What we need to do is we need to clean that out so that when the search box is actually clicked, if we find the code which actually does that, the first thing we do before we do anything else is to clean out the list box or the list view. Now, one of the options on the list view statement is to reset, and what this does is it will keep the headers and columns we have defined, but it will throw away all the data lines. So our list box is called that, and in here, if we put that command in here and we run our code now, we search initially for, let's say, 5 items, and if we change our search to say we only want 3, now we have only 3. It's not adding to what's there, it's cleaning it out and allowing it to run again. Go for 10 items and we get 10. Take it back to 1 item and we only get 1. What we've done, we've put 2 new controls on our dialog. A tick box, which controls the visibility of a label, and a text box. And when a number is put in the text box, we're using that to limit the number of records we bring into the list view. So that completes this video. Thank you for watching.